Greetings, welcome to another day of Autoforge development. We started working on the mechanical system, so I was going to kind of talk about the design for that. I think I covered that a little bit like a week ago, and then we'll look at what we've started coding so far. So the mechanical system is, as the synopsis says, where there are many placeable items that are devices which can have mechanical inputs or outputs. You can connect devices together, allowing for these signals to be passed between them to create these complex machines. So a really simple example is that you have a lever that you can place down and it has an output, and then you have a conveyor belt. Again, you can place that down, and that has an input, and you can draw a connection between the lever and the conveyor belt, connecting them together. And then whenever you pull the lever, it sends a signal to the conveyor belt to like turn it on or turn it off. And so you can, create a series of these machines to just have like a complex factory eventually. Start off simple, but uh, it'll have complexity ramp up over time. We'll have stuff like being able to filter items or being able to launch items or also like through a cannon or something. Another example could be what I call producers, which consume an item and then converts that or possibly multiple materials into some output item. An example of that is we have a furnace that takes some ore, and after some time it will convert it into an iron ingot, right? So, um, yeah, this is, I talk about connections and signals here. Some devices will require power, so you can send, uh, some power energy to a device. So, and if you don't have power, then that means that it cannot run. Very basic, we're not doing things too complicated here. I'd say the most complicated thing is that signals can have an assigned value, and there are a few devices that, mostly like logical devices that you'll get later in the game, that can react to these signal. I'm calling them strengths now. So that means that you might have it so if a value is greater than 4, it sends a signal to one device, and if it's less than 4, it sends it to another device. And so you can actually like create very complex machines with this. And so I've been working on a lot of different content possibilities, kind of just seeing what we could do with that. I won't go into details there. Let's jump over to the code and just like take a look at that for a little bit. It's still very much work in progress. I don't have anything to show off right now, unfortunately, besides the code. So I've been working on the mechanical component as well as the mechanical system. A lot of this I'm pulling from Korea. I implemented this mechanical system in Korea, my previous game, and this was actually the inspiration for Autoforge. And then I made a prototype in Korea as well. Now I have just been kind of porting that over to this game engine. It's mostly written in C++. Now I'm putting it into TypeScript here. So we have like a mechanical signal and this mechanical interface or component interface, which we use to set up a component on an entity. We specify that the entity has a mechanical component and so on. And we have a lot of different like enums specifying how like the mechanical strengths, the put types, which is input or output, and the various node types. So normally you have like just basic, that's the common, like sending a signal between two devices. Power is how you actually send power between the devices. And then I think maybe later down the road we'll do items and liquid, but kind of, especially with the items, keep that very limited because we want to really capitalize on the physics side of things. And so if we're passing around items through signals that's not visible, it's not visually interesting, right? And then we have the mechanical nodes, which are representing the input or outputs. So you can connect input node to some output node, and usually it's a like devices will have one of each, or well, just one of either or both. It's like one input and one output, or one output and that's it. But some devices do have multiple depending on like how they are working. Um, and then yeah, to start working on the mechanical component, there's a lot going on here. You know, we can have it handle whenever devices are connected and disconnected, and whenever a device sends a signal or receives a signal. Those are like the two biggest ones. And that's where the logic works on, like whenever the conveyor belt receives a signal, we tell it to turn on, which means that it's moving items that are, you know, sitting on top of it. And yeah, so just working on getting a lot of these basics down, you know, being able to ready signals and send them, etc. And then we start working on the mechanical system and putting that together, which handles connecting devices together and knowing how those connections are working. And whenever we want to send a signal, that actually ends up going through the mechanical system, not the mechanical component. So it handles that um, down here with send signal. And yeah, so I've just been piecing it together. I haven't tested anything yet. I'm sure it's broken in many places and there's just a lot more code to write. But it's starting to get together. Hopefully in the next video we'll have it at least able to like put or connect two devices together, even if it's not through some interface, just like do it through the code and see that working. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.